If you are someone aspiring towards a career in solid waste operations or an industry professional interested in WAG, this episode is for you.
Welcome to Trash Talk Tuesday, brought to you by Waste Alliance Group.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Trash Talk Tuesdays. I am your host, Aline Ogoy, and today's guest is Chris Marriott. Chris is the current Operations Services Director at Watauga County, as well as the Membership Chair on the WAG Board. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Chris, why don't you tell us more about your current role at Watauga County?
Yes. I've Watauga County, I'm the Operations Services Director, as you said, and basically it entails overseeing all of the solid waste operations. We have a transfer station and 10 rural drop sites or container sites where we collect trash from the rural residents, and also what I call a mini MRF or a mini recycling center. So overseeing all those activities along with some random stuff, which is why I'm not solid waste director, like road signs and animal control. But that's my current role, and it's very fascinating to me.
That is amazing. What's a typical work day like for you?
Typical work day for me is, one thing I always say is no day is ever the same. Mm-hmm. But I come in, greet staff, say hello, get a briefing if anybody's out, that kind of stuff, check email, that kind of stuff. Don't get as much email here as I have in previous jobs, which is lovely. And then make my way around to go see staff, kind of walk the site, get a little exercise, go see everybody, say good morning, see how everybody's doing. I'm a big on relationships, so making sure I build relationships with employees and seeing them and how things are going. And then it's, it depends on what's going on. On an average day, it could be, a couple calls or visits with vendors, trying to negotiate a new contract, maybe have to meet with the county manager, getting prices on equipment. You never know. Today it was, hey, we have snow. It wasn't in the forecast. So, make sure things are salted and roads are clean. So you never know what's going to be average, but it's basically making sure, the employees have what they need to get the job done, and ensuring that we all provide excellent customer service to our county residents.
Wow, that is amazing. Can you please describe your progression through your career from your days at Joyce Engineering to where you are now?
Well, I started at Joyce Engineering at a much younger age as a field technician. I guess I was a field technician. I don't know. Doing compliance work for landfills, mostly groundwater sampling. Learned a lot, and I was put on point for landfill gas, which has been an excellent thing for me in my career, learning about landfill gas. Learned how NSPS regulations and why landfill gas, the whole science behind it, and then all the regulations behind it has really helped me in my career as I progress, because I think I understand it more than some others. And, not only doing that field work, but then writing the reports and compliance reports and everything that have to go to the state and the EPA was real helpful. And then I took a short stint with NCDEQ, or Diener at the time, but now DEQ. And there it was very helpful because I learned regulations that you don't learn as an operator. Yes, we offer classes. Everybody offers classes. You take classes. You try to take continuing education classes. But you don't learn the breadth of all the regulations until you're in that regulatory spot. Right. When you have to oversee, all the 4 or 5 types of landfills, the treatment and processing facilities, the transfer stations, some of the septage rules are under solid waste, and the benefits of the tax regulations on recycling equipment and how that impacts, property taxes for counties, but private, it helps private industry and really spurs growth in recycling. So that was very beneficial to me. But in that job, I also met a lot of people. I was overseeing 6 to 8 counties. And I landed my next job with the city of Durham. And, in that position, very similar to what I do now, had closed landfill and a compost site and a convenience site and, transfer station, and just worked to, provide the best operations that I could, working with the collection side in the city. I left there and became, deputy director of a department in Greensboro and overseeing all solid waste operations. And that was lots of fun for a bit, but lots of stress, lots of long hours and everything. And luckily, I was able to end up here in Watauga County with not quite as much stress, but still putting my expertise and my 20 years experience to use in helping, improve solid waste operations here in Watauga County, making sure that, we can do what we can and, to provide excellent, like I said, excellent customer service, sanitary solid waste services, and, enhance our recycling services for members, not only the residents of Watauga County, but the high percentage of visitors that we get, whether it's winter visitors for snow skiing or summer visitors trying to escape the heat. We have them all year round. So it's very interesting.
Oh, wow. You mentioned 20-year career is amazing. Thank you for your service, I want to say. What lessons have you learned in working in these different areas, from consultant to owners representative to state regulator?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I have a passion for, my passion is really helping people and protecting the environment. And I've been that way since I was young, growing up in what was then rural Lake Norman area, outside of Mooresville. But the most important thing I've learned is connections with people and the relationships that you build, whether those people are the regulators, whether those people are your decision makers, your elected officials, whether it be a city council or a county commissioners, whether those people are at the state level, writing the rules, or reviewing, the regulations. It's all about those relationships. I mean, yes, we're all trying to do a good job. Do we do everything perfectly? I don't believe anybody does. But when you have those relationships and your intent is good, I think that's important to doing any job well. And it's no different in solid waste management.
Amazing. What are some of your more memorable moments in solid waste?
More memorable moment.
Good or bad?
Well, I don't have any crazy stories. Like a former coworker of mine that many people may remember, Hugh Jernigan, has this great story about how he almost died falling into a trash compactor.
No.
I don't have anything like that. But mine, other than the great people I've met, I covered that. But one thing that kind of sticks out, or newsworthy, I guess, or infamous, I should say, was in Durham. We, like most areas, you have an appliance drop off. And so refrigerators, things with Freon or whatever, get dropped off. Well, my employee had turned their back and was helping someone else do something, and turns back around, and there's this not small, like a small refrigerator.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting, like, not over by the other refrigerators, in the middle of our, like, paved area.
Oh, no.
It just dropped off right there. The thing is painted army green. It has a padlock on both doors. It has a wire around it that's strapped shut. And then it's got tubes coming out of each, like, coming out of the sides and the back. And it says danger, it has these stickers, danger,
no.
danger, explosive, keep out. And we're like, what in the world? How did this get here? And so we're like, it looks like a refrigerator, but did somebody drop off a bomb? Like, what's going on? And so, we're afraid to touch it. And like, nobody saw who brought it in.
Wow.
The guy didn't go over the scales. He just kind of turned in, dropped it off because he knew where he was going and left it. And so I was like, well, being the manager of the facility, I'm like, it says danger. It's got weird tubes coming out of it. Like it had clear tubes and it had white tubes and black tubes coming out of this refrigerator. And it's locked up. It's got 3 padlocks on it. And I was like, this is really strange. This is not how you typically see a refrigerator. And so we actually called the fire department, who contacted the bomb squad and brought in the robot to go in and clip the locks off the wires. And it was just a refrigerator.
No way.
But this whole thing, like the news crew had come out. We're stationed at the fire station across the street. They had the helicopter above us, bomb, not bomb threat, but, explosion warning at Durham, transfer station. And it turns out the guy got home and saw it on the news and then started driving back. He didn't call us. He just started driving back. And he said, oh, that was my kegerator. That's what all the tubes were. And I just painted it up to look like my helicopter because I was an Army a helicopter pilot. And I was like, why is it locked? He goes, well, I didn't want anybody to steal my keg of beer. And I was like, okay. It was totally benign and wouldn't have harmed anyone, I guess. But it was just a strange event because we didn't know what this thing was.
That is so funny.
Yeah. But the whole, I was like, I felt really bad. I was like, I hope it didn't really cause an overreaction, but I guess it was a slow news day. So that was I avoided the news, but they were there on the facilities.
Wow, that's definitely memorable right there. Thank you for sharing. Okay, next question. Why is solid waste management important to you?
Solid waste management, as I said, I've always had an interest in the environment. I used to, my grandparents lived in a rural area, and I used to spend a lot of the summers with them, and we would walk up and down the dirt road and see how people would just throw litter out and throw aluminum cans out. Back then, we didn't have really plastic bottles. I think there was cans and there was glass bottles. But we would go through every Monday and Tuesday and pick up the trash and pick up the aluminum cans. And my grandfather would always help us crush the cans and take them for recycling. You get paid for it. I don't know what we got paid, like $10 for crushed cans in a black plastic bag or whatever. But, as a 8-year-old, that was a lot of money, especially back in those times. And so, I've always had a passion for the environment and that kind of thing. So I chose a career, or I chose a major in school, natural resource management, and kind of fell into solid waste management. I think most people do kind of, for lack of a better term, fall into solid waste management. You can get here from many different ways, but I think it's important because otherwise we would all have, instead of having these beautiful scenic roads like we have in North Carolina, we'd have litter everywhere. We would have contaminated water supplies, contaminated rivers that we couldn't enjoy for recreation, for fishing, for other things. And to me, that's why, solid waste management is important, because we have to protect this earth and this land that we're lucky enough to inhabit, and just appreciate the beauty of it and make sure that it stays that way for our children and our children's children and those generations afterwards.
Wow. Thank you so much. That is well said. What do you think is lacking in solid waste management?
What is lacking in solid waste management? Um, as I said, I've had a career of about 20-ish years at this point, within solid waste. And one thing that changed a couple years ago is the requirement that the state used to have for planning. And that's not required anymore for local government units. And I don't think that because it's not required, we used to have to do these plans and everything, and you'd have to have meetings with your constituents, or at least set up meetings, whether anybody showed up or not. Who knows? Sometimes in some areas they did, and some they did not. But you had to then take your plan and have it approved by your elected officials. And so you had this written plan that had, kind of went out 5-10 years in front of your elected officials, and you had to update it every 3 years. Well, this kept it on the radar. Well, now it's no longer required. And, as a director, it's great. I don't have to do this plan anymore. One less thing that I have to work on. However, I think in as a whole, it doesn't let our elected officials know the hard work that we're doing, and it doesn't help them plan for the future. As long as myself and other people in the industry make the trash go away every day, it's out of sight, out of mind for them. And so that lack of planning long term, and lack of, it could also lead to regional cooperation. There's a lot of areas where the scale for a transfer station or a landfill aren't feasible for one county or for one city. But if they group together regionally, it would make a lot of sense. But because we're not forced to talk about it anymore, we're not forced to do this long-term solid waste plan, it just gets put out of sight, out of mind. And everybody, it's kind of like, well, when you have a need, nobody else has a need type thing. And nobody else is on your schedule. So I think that's one thing that's lacking across the state of North Carolina, at least, is, that forward long-term process. We're just managing either we're managing 6 months down the road, or you're managing to the next election cycle, whatever it may be. And, that's not what's, I guess, best for the industry and what's best for, your county and your region.
What challenges do you see in the future for solid waste management, and how far out are these?
Challenges. Well, I guess the one thing that I see is, and I hate to give the same answer as everyone else that would probably in the industry, but it's lack of landfill space, difficulty in permitting landfills, or solid waste facilities in general, not just landfills. There's new technologies coming on board, whether they be some type of incineration or newer technologies, but nobody wants these things close to their residences. Nobody wants to drive by them. Nobody, it's the NIMBY syndrome, not in my backyard. And I think that's the biggest thing challenging us, because as a population, we're definitely growing. We're spreading out. Everybody wants their, little plot of land with their green grass or their little homestead or whatever it may be. And, that just makes less and less land that you can have some type of solid waste processing facility or disposal facility. So that's going to force us as an industry and as a state to say, hey, we've got to work together to do something.
And what solutions do you think will be needed to meet these challenges?
Well, I'm hoping, I'm a true believer that, as if we keep making small steps, we'll keep baby steps will help, but as with anything else, somebody's eventually going to find some type of technology that will really help the situation. I don't know what that is yet, but there are people working on it.
Yeah.
I know people in the industry working on, mining landfills now, for landfills like mine that closed 30, 35 years ago. And the stuff that's in there, it used to be that, hey, we have a washer and a dryer, dump it in the landfill. We have, and obviously in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot less plastics in our waste stream than there is now. So, there's people mining, digging up those old landfills, trying to get the things that are recyclable out of them, and a lot of the metals and that kind of stuff. A lot of the organics that are still remaining, if they haven't broken down, can be better composted now. So I think there's just going to be some type of industry shift. Somebody's going to finally say, I can do this on this type of scale to make it beneficial for our community. And that's the biggest problem, is getting it on the right scale. We've seen small projects that'll handle 100 tons of waste, which isn't feasible for a lot of people. 100 tons is very, very little. Or then there's the things that take, 1,500 to 2,000 tons of waste every single day. And that's so much that people, like even a city like Greensboro, the third largest in the state, on their heavy days, they get about 1,000, 1,100 tons of waste. And so they don't have enough, because they only have that 4 days a week.
Yeah.
They don't have enough to run something like that 7 days a week, because most of those operations have to run 6 or 7 days a week, continuously. And so, we need the technology that somebody dreams up. And then we need the cooperation to get, the scale in the right aspect. And we'll also need the state regulators to be open to new ideas. A lot of times I feel, we haven't been early adapters to new technology. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But we need to, we can't keep doing the same thing we've always done for the past 30, 40 years in solid waste, or we're going to get the same exact results.
Thank you so much for that. Now, switching gears a little bit, what motivated you to join the Waste Alliance Group Board?
One is I used to work with Ray Hoffman, and I really respect Ray. We did a lot of landfill gas feasibility studies together, and I respect the work that he's done in since we worked together at Joyce Engineering, in some of his pushing the industry forward and pushing training to people. And so when he talked to me about Waste Alliance Group, I really like the idea of reaching out and focusing more on, how should I say this? I guess the whole hierarchy of people in solid waste. Whether it's your frontline equipment operator, all the way up to the director management level. There's something that the WAG group focuses on for everyone. And I really like that. That I can send my operators, and there's specialty in there's specialties and trainings and stuff that really reaches down to that technical level. So it kind of, I kind of like that. And when Ray asked if I would, help out, I said, sure, I'd love to, because I think it's needed to get out into the community, to travel about the state, regionally. You don't need a big conference of 150 people to be effective. You could do localized trainings. And if you're impactful for, 15, 20 people, that's 15 to 20 people that you've made an impact, that you've increased their knowledge of the industry. You increase their relationships with other people in their region so they can call on the phone and say, hey, I've got this problem. Have you ever encountered this before? Or I've met these vendors that can now help me out with new things. And I think that's important.
Thank you so much for that. What are some of the programs that WAG is working on and will be rolling out in 2026?
In 2026, I know we're definitely trying to get reorganized. And my job as membership chair is to help grow membership. I want to, try to get more members involved, at least so that they they're aware of the group. And then they get, newsletters that go out. They get informed of these podcasts that we do. But also we're trying to do at least, I believe, quarterly regional trainings. And these are, one-day trainings that focus on a specific topic. One that we have, it could be, pipe fusion. If you're into, like I was, landfill gas systems or your leachate collection systems, you deal with these HDP pipes. And while you may not have the equipment or the know-how to do these pipe fusions, attending like a 1 day, 8 hour or 6 hour class on it with these companies that make the pipes, make the equipment, learning the difference between, electrofusion, and the welding of just learning all those terms. It helps you be a better manager, helps you be a better director in just knowing the terminology. And I think that's important for anyone. So I'm really looking at just expanding our educational reach and trying to, as we grow membership, asking them what they need.
Yeah.
With the equipment vendors. I mean, I think the equipment vendors are willing to come show equipment, the new technologies that are out there, and learning about that stuff. You don't know. I mean, it's the old adage, you don't know what you don't know. So just trying to get it in front of people, make it accessible. Everybody can't take a week off and go to, a 3 or 4 day conference, and everybody can't afford, this is a big state.
Yeah.
It takes 5-6 hours to drive, from, one across the state. So if we could get it within, 90 minutes of you, it's more likely that you can attend and get something from it.
All right. Last question. What words of wisdom can you share with kids in high school or college regarding solid waste?
Well, number one, it's a great field. If you don't believe me, and I always say people say it's recession proof, but it's not. Everybody produces trash, and the trash guy usually sees when the recession hits because the trash volumes go down. But it's one of those things, as I started, every day is a little bit different. You never know what you're going to encounter. That's one thing. And then number two, it's hard to outsource loading trash, packing trash, or whatever it is, completely AI. It's not going to be replaced. Where you are collecting it from a house to getting it to a sorting or bulking facility to the landfill, that takes a lot of human interaction. And so, that's one thing. And I also encourage students that no matter your level of education, there's a place for you in the waste industry. I've seen people come up, as a high school graduate, and they start working on a truck, and they've become a vice president and CEO of a company, or they've become a senior supervisor, making a good living without a college education. Or there's people with PhDs that are, doing those research on these facilities, trying to improve things for all of us. So, it's all education levels coming to work together, trying to, make our communities stay clean and green, and so that we can still enjoy them,
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate you coming on today and speak to us. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Visit us at wastealliancegroup.com if you have any questions.